Our hectic lifestyles frequently result in feelings of stress, exhaustion, and even burnout. Stress is a major cause of illness and can result in depression and anxiety. Fortunately, the writings of ancient Taoist sages contain a wealth of philosophical ideas that can help us relieve stress and reduce our never-ending worries. When we try to force things, we go against the natural course, according to Taoism. According to the Taoists, forcing means interfering with or even going against nature, which only leads to trouble. When we look at many of today's societies, we see that we are constantly forcing our way through life. We seek not only to change nature to our liking, but also to control things over which we have little control, such as fate and external circumstances. We are obsessed with power, and the Taoist sages teach the inverse: let go. Letting go is a recurring theme in Taoist ancient scriptures, such as the Tao Te Ching, Zhuangzi, and the lesser-known Liezi. Lao Tzu, the mysterious author of the Tao Te Ching, reminds us that nature takes care of itself and that everything gets done without our intervention. Liezi also observed how obsessed we are with finding happiness in the outside world, and how our efforts to achieve it, as well as our clinging to external circumstances, make us unhappy. We are unwilling to give up our restless pursuits in order to be happy, which is precisely why we aren't. In reality, our efforts to avoid being unhappy cause anxiety. The ancient Taoists' writings persuade us to take a different path. We should let go of existing concepts and worldviews, become aware of emptiness, allow nature to take its course, and move with nature rather than against it. What is the goal? Following Tao, the universal principle, leads to a simpler life with less worry. This video delves into ancient Taoist ideas that may serve as antidotes to worry in an out-of-control world. Enlightening has just released a new compilation book, Loose, Letting Stuff Go, which contains a selection of essays revised and edited for print, exploring ways to let go of life's many attachments. Loose is available as a paperback and an ebook on Amazon. Links are provided below. 1. Antidote. Things being left alone. Zhuangzi, a Taoist sage, knew how to do nothing. He didn't interfere with natural processes, because if he did, nature would deform into something it isn't. He left things alone, allowing them to take their natural course, and watched things mature around him. Doing nothing is considered a sin in many modern cultures obsessed with achievement and productivity. We don't allow ourselves to do nothing because we believe that we should always be busy. We would rather work against nature than not work at all, even if our efforts only impede our goals. A previous video about the Taoist concept of effortless action, or Wu Wei, shows an example of a farmer pulling his crops to make them grow faster to no avail. In the process, he even damages his crops. Similarly, we push and pull wherever we can, often with no results, and sometimes even sabotaging our progress, causing stress and exhaustion and adding to our worries. We respect the natural course of things when we leave them alone. Our environment, whether at work or at home, does not always require our intervention. Problems frequently resolve themselves, and life always falls into place, whether we like the outcome or not, and what appears to be bad luck may be a blessing in disguise, while our efforts may prove to be a curse. Furthermore, the universe always gets its way, so trying to control it is pointless. Antidote number 2. Stop seeking happiness. Zhuangzi wasn't sure if what all those busy people were chasing was happiness or not. but he could see that their methods of obtaining it were making them unhappy. People are stressed, always rushing in their obsessive pursuit of happiness. Their faces appear tired and grim. If the pursuit of happiness makes our lives miserable, we should abandon it, argued Zhuangzi. We not only exhaust ourselves, but we also don't find what we're looking for, resulting in a lose-lose situation. Things like wealth and fame may be enjoyable for a time, but they only add to our worries in the long run because we fear losing them once we have them. Those who believe that wealth is the proper thing for them cannot give up their earnings. Those who seek distinction cannot give up the thought of fame, and those who cling to power cannot hand it over to others. They are afraid of losing those things, so they hold on to them. They are grieved when they let them go, and they will not look at a single example from which they might see the folly of their restless pursuits. Such men are doomed by heaven. Quote ends. According to Zhuangzi, contentment and well-being become possible when we stop acting with them in mind. If we don't want happiness and well-being, the wrong of not having what we want and the right of having what we want vanish. As a result, we are unconcerned about obtaining or not obtaining happiness. Instead, we enjoy happiness because we no longer care about acquiring it. Antidote number 3. Observing the void people. According to Liezi, like to be praised because it makes them feel good when others recognize their accomplishments. But Liezi valued emptiness instead, explaining that when we're free of all these attachments, we're less stressed. We'll have fewer worries if we don't place so much value on other people's approval and validation. According to Liezi, we seek credit for things that aren't entirely our own doing. Many of the things that people praise us for are the result of favorable circumstances or innate characteristics. If the conditions are favorable, our actions will only contribute to the outcome, as many other factors will be at work. People who are praised as Instagram models, for example, are praised primarily for having good genetics that lead to high attractiveness and adhering to current beauty standards. So, what is their genuine accomplishment? Instead of focusing on obtaining praise that ultimately belongs to no one, Liezi encourages us to calm down and let go. Seeing the emptiness of things can assist us in developing stillness and peace of mind. If you don't know how to stay still in this crazy world, you'll get yourself into a lot of trouble. Quote ends. Many of the things we pursue are hollow. They have no substance other than the value we assign to them. Praise is meaningless. And, more often than not, if not always, it is undeserved. The same can be said for many other activities that we consider important but are ultimately meaningless. It's as if we do them to distract ourselves from the emptiness of it all. But, according to Liezi, if we embrace this emptiness, accept it, and let go of all these games, the chasing, the rat races, the never-ending pursuit of happiness, we'd be better off. Antidote number 4. The internal law: we invite trouble by constantly pushing ourselves beyond our capabilities. According to Taoist sage Lao Tzu, he wrote in his profound work, the Tao Te Ching, that those who stand on their tiptoes do not stand firmly, and those who rush ahead do not get very far. Standing on tiptoes occurs when we attempt to exert control over things we cannot control. According to Zhuangzi, the distinction between someone whose law is within himself and someone whose law is outside himself is explained in the book The Way of Chuang Tzu. The first person acts independently of the approval or disapproval of others. The second person is influenced by factors beyond his control and thus becomes a puppet of his circumstances. His mood is determined by what happens in the outside world. When he tries to extend his power over objects, those objects gain control of him, Zhuangzi explained. He is happy and content when things go well. When things don't go as planned, he is unhappy and worried. As a result, he tries to get what he wants while avoiding what he doesn't, always concerned with a universe over which he has no control. I quote, "He who seeks to increase his power is nothing more than an operator. While he believes he is superior to others, others see him as merely competent, squeezing, stretching to walk on tiptoe." Quote ends. So, one of the lessons we can take from Zhuangzi's writings is to turn our attention and desire inward rather than outward. In the end, it is our minds that determine how we feel, not the world. As a result, adjusting our minds makes more sense than attempting to control our environment if we seek contentment. Everything around us has gotten out of hand. We do, however, have control over our thoughts, decisions, and attitudes toward the environment. The less we look for happiness outside of ourselves, the less we have to walk on tiptoes to find it. Antidote number 5. Not being concerned about fate. Not fate, but worrying about fate, according to Zhuangzi, gets people into trouble. For example, an archer may shoot perfectly during practice, but horribly when competing for a prize. We worry about not achieving our goals as soon as we set them. If the archer in Zhuangzi's story only shoots for the sake of shooting, he does fine. However, when a prize is in sight, he begins to care more, despite the fact that his skill has not changed. He is more concerned with winning than with shooting. And the desire to win saps his power, Zhuangzi explained. So, how should we deal with fate? How do we approach an uncertain future with the possibility of good fortune or bad luck? Liezi tells us about an elderly man from the kingdom of Chai who was terrified of the sky falling and the earth breaking up. And if that happens, he won't be able to flee, and his death will be unavoidable. So a friend tried to reassure him that the sky would not fall and that there was nothing to worry about. Then a wise man told him that there is a chance of the sky falling, but the chances are small, so the elder shouldn't be too concerned. Then Liezi laughed and said, "It's nonsense to even consider whether heaven and earth can or cannot be destroyed. We have no idea whether they will perish or not. It's fantastic if heaven and earth don't perish. We can go about our lives without being concerned. However, if they die, there is nothing we can do about it, so why be concerned?" Quote ends. There is no point in worrying about whether or not the earth will perish, according to an ancient Taoist sage. It's something we have no control over. If it occurs, it occurs. Furthermore, we have no idea what this dreadful fate entails. How does it feel to be dead? What happens, for example, if we lose our jobs or our marriages end? We interpret these events as disasters, even though they may be blessings in disguise. Again, we have no control over what happens, so worrying about it is a waste of time. Thank you for taking the time to watch.